We fear both the unknown and the unexpected. Retirement brings on both of those emotions, but it doesn't have to be scary if we're prepared to face the biggest retirement fears. I'm Wes Wood, the income guy and founder and president of Wood Financial Group. And for nearly 20 years, I specialize in helping hardworking Tennesseans just like you reach their retirement goals through income-based financial strategies. And if you're looking for the right solutions to achieve your own financial goals, you've come to the right place. Reach me at retiretv.com or by calling 855-776-0614. And today, we're talking about some of your biggest fears heading into retirement. We all know life can be scary, especially in times of change and transition. And one of the biggest changes is retirement. So after decades of working and building a career, you enter a stage of life with new challenges and new opportunities. Your financial security is no longer determined by your job. It's totally up to you. Yes, retirement can be scary, but it's a lot less scary when you know and are prepared for the biggest fears in retirement. And we're going to talk about those fears on today's show and tell you how to prepare for them. We'll focus on 3 of the scariest retirement questions people face. The first one, can I retire? Number 2, can I maximize my Social Security? And number 3, will I be able to meet my health care needs? Also, David Scranton joins us again this week. He's an investing for income specialist with over 30 years in the business. He's also a best-selling author and a TV host. But first, before we get to Dave, let's talk about the first question I mentioned, can I retire? Retirement is always changing and evolving today, especially with baby boomers who are redefining it all over again. They've chosen to be more active and have more unconventional retirements, and many of them continue to work part-time or even full-time jobs. Some go this route because they want to keep working if they're able, but for others, it's a financial choice, or it could be a combination of those factors. But in some cases, it's just a convenient way of avoiding confronting the question, can I retire? By choosing to keep working, you avoid ever discovering if you'll be able to stop working in order to pay your bills. In other words, you deal with the question by just simply avoiding it, which isn't dealing with it at all. And if you really want to keep working or start a second career, go for it. However, you still should take the time to explore this question, can I retire, rather than just completely avoiding it. People who avoid answering the question are usually approaching it with the wrong mindset. They believe that it all boils down to the size of your nest egg. They ask, how much have I managed to save during my working years? And is it enough for me to even retire? These people think more broadly about their bills and their expenses, and they just assume that the answer is no, I can't retire. Well, here's the secret. That's exactly the wrong way to approach this question. Yes, of course, we all know it's important to save as much as we possibly can for retirement. But I want you to keep these 2 things in mind. 1, there's no magic amount that everyone needs to achieve. And 2, for most people, your lump sum total of what you have is less important than having the right allocation that's right for your retirement. And I stress the word your because it's the first thing you need to do is to identify your specific retirement goals. That's one step towards eliminating the biggest fear of retirement, can I retire? Hey, maybe your retirement looks like downsizing. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to buy a boat, perhaps move abroad. Maybe you really want to keep working or perhaps even start a new business. And again, if you do, that's great. But don't assume you just have to because you haven't managed to save $1 million that you think you need in order to retire. In addition to identifying your goals, it's also very important to factor in all the other sources of retirement income. And these sources of retirement income include Social Security, which may be a more important resource than you even realize. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a few minutes. But right now, I want to welcome our guest today, Dave Scranton. A little bit about Dave. He's the founder of Sound Income Strategies and the founder of the Retirement Income Store. Hey, Dave, thanks for being here on today's show.
Great to be back, Wes. I love it. All right, so I know you said the allocations are more important than, the lump sum. And what you mean by that, I know, is that you're talking about the allocation toward income, how much income the portfolios generate can be more important than the lump sum. But if someone wants to back into that lump sum number to determine how much they need in a lump sum to reach an income goal, how do you teach them to do that?
Well, there's good question, Dave, and there's a few different ways to go about doing it. One of the things that we always like to do is help people identify those goals. But one of the other ways that we can look at is to determine how much income they need to have is do what we call a top-down approach when it comes to budgeting for retirement. Meaning, what you want to do is take the amount of money you have while you're working, the top portion, then subtract out some of those expenses that are going to go away when you do retire. Like your 401k contributions, which you're not going to have anymore, your FICA deductions, maybe you're going to pay off your mortgage, that's an expense. Then what you're essentially left over with is a number that's the net amount that you're accustomed to live off of now. And for a lot of people, that may be enough. But the big question is that it's probably not, you probably can't generate enough just from Social Security. It has to come from other sources like your investments. So that's when we need to look at the investments to assure that the allocation is generating enough income to fill that the gap between Social Security and perhaps the need for income that they're going to have.
And the basic rule of thumb there, I believe, that you use is if somebody's perfectly allocated, in other words, allocated toward income, that they can get about 4% income flow as a general rule from a lump sum. So $1 million generates about $40,000 a year to a retiree. Is that about right?
Yeah, no, that's a great rule. Now, the rule of thumb that used to be used for the growth allocation, which quite frankly is the wrong allocation for retirement. It's really more about income now. But the old rule of thumb was 4%. But now that rule's kind of been thrown out due to the last 20 so years of the stock market. But investing for income, we can still use about 4% of the lump sum to generate it through interest and dividends. Absolutely right. So $500,000 gives you $20,000 of income. $1 million gives you $40,000, and so on and so forth. Yes, sir.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually have software in your office that can help stress test people's portfolios. So when people come to see you to see how they're going to do through retirement, it's not like most advisors where you're just planning up to retirement for some lump sum. You help show them throughout maybe a 30-year retirement by stress testing their money so they can feel confident that they're not going to have to unretire in the future, correct?
That's right, or run out of money. And what we do typically in those meetings is gather the information that they have, do a fact pattern, understand how much money they have, then put it into the system to stress test to determine is their allocation right to generate perhaps the 4% income that they need, or we can determine what kind of income that they want to take from the portfolio and stress test it with this software in order to determine if they are going to be allocated properly.
Good stuff.
Yep, that's right. But hey, David, don't go away. We're going to talk more later in the show. But coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Social Security and how you can make sure you're maximizing your benefits. We'll be right back.
Retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs are great tools to save for retirement. They offer tax advantages to help keep more money in your pocket. But withdrawing money from your accounts can have a huge impact on your tax liability. Take money from the right account at the right time and you could minimize it. But taking money from the wrong account at the wrong time could result in a big tax burden. If you're not sure what you should do with your 401k in retirement, visit retiretv.com to schedule a free, no-obligation conversation with Wes Wood and Wood Financial Group.
I'm David Scranton. During my career, I found that most baby boomers have done a great job growing their retirement savings, yet many don't know how to convert their savings into steady income. And that is why I built the Retirement Income Store, to help hardworking Americans preserve their assets and establish steady streams of income.
If you're 55 or older, please claim our free Retirement Income Kit, chock full of information you need to know to get steady income during your retirement. Call 866-714-7377, online at theretirementincomestore.com.